Good evening. I'm Elaine Ty-Lauria, Executive Director of Wilton Library, and I am so thrilled to have you hold your forum here this evening at the library. It's something that we feel very near and dear to our hearts, that we service not only our residents but also our business neighbors. So we welcome you, and we hope we'll have the opportunity to partner with you in this endeavor.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. I'm really glad to see that we've got a lot of people in the audience. I hope that there are going to be more people who come tonight, because this is, I think, one of the most pressing issues that the town is facing right now. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Heather Borden-Hervé, and I'm the editor and publisher of something called Good Morning Wilton, goodmorningwilton.com. It's an online daily newspaper. Wilton is at a crossroads. That's why we're here. Politically, in less than 3 weeks, we'll have a completely new municipal government. In the last year, every single seat on the Board of Selectmen, except for one, Richard Dubow, has changed. We've had the same first selectman for 10 years, and that's about to change. And radically, we have to figure out if we're going to say select man, select woman. We'll see. Economically, our taxes are at a record high, and not just, they're not meeting the needs for what people feel they get for their taxes in comparison to our neighboring towns. The refrain we hear over and over is that our taxes are higher, everybody else's schools are just as good, if not better now, so what else is there here in Wilton? Socially, a lot of people feel our community is fractured at the moment. We have groups pitted against one another. You have people with children in the schools against the seniors. You have people who want to see more urbanized development against people who think any kind of amenity and growth of business base here is a deterioration of Wilton and its history. People complain that they don't have an open ear at town hall and that town leaders don't communicate well either out to the citizens or listen to what the citizens have to say. There's a lot of complaining on social media. I don't know how many of you were reading what goes on Wilton 411 and 412, but a lot of that, particularly our realtors, are saying that what they're hearing from their clients is that it's impacting how people are. Sorry, I think I just moved your slide, Dave. How people are deciding whether or not they're going to come to Wilton, and that they're getting turned off by Wilton by what they hear from Wiltonians. From what I understand, I've only been in town for about 10 years, and I understand that this is not really a new issue, that this crops up. I've heard stories of arguments decades ago over the school budgets. I've heard arguments decades ago over whether or not certain amenities should be built and where Wilton is headed. And I know for someone who publishes a website that has the word good in the title, that's kind of a Debbie Downer introduction. There is a lot of good here in Wilton, obviously, or else we wouldn't all be here. And that's sort of one of the ground rules that I do want to set as we go into the discussion, and I'll tell you where we're headed tonight. But we're going to try and remember that this is about the good. This is about imagining what Wilton can become and where we're going and how we get there. Some of these discussions have been taking place before the election. Sometimes you hear, oh, well, we can't do that idea, and this is why, because the state puts this roadblock, or we can't do that because we've got certain regulations in place. What I'd like to do for these ideas that you're going to hear tonight is maybe we just try and say that there's no, you can't do that. Let's just say, why not? Let's try, see how we can figure out what we can do. As you know, the night is being produced by the Economic Development Commission, and this is about development. We're going to talk about what that word means, what kind of projects we want to look toward developing, and also what Wilton will develop into. On our panel tonight, I'm going to start actually in the middle with Peter Gaboriel. He is the chair of the Economic Development Commission, and he's a residential builder who lives here in town. On his right, we've got Lee Wilson, who is a commercial real estate owner in town. On Peter's other side, you've got Dan Berg, who has just recently started writing a column for me. And part of the reason that he's up here is he wrote 2 columns about his vision for what Wilton will become and can become. And it was sort of a look back from the year 2030 as he and his wife were preparing to leave town and move out of town. And he takes a bike ride from his home in Georgetown down to Wilton Center and how much it's changed in the years since he has been here. At the end, you've got Dominic Musilli, who's president of True Commercial Real Estate. And over here, you've got Ann Nash, who's the owner of Signature Style, and she's also a board member of the Wilton Chamber of Commerce. So I wanted to start the discussion with some definitions of what the Economic Development Commission does and where our panel sees things. We're going to move into, we have 3 ideas that have been selected by the Economic Development Commission, sort of pie-in-the-sky dream ideas that might work here in Wilton, and our panel will discuss it. And then at the end, we're going to have sort of a lightning round of some other smaller ideas that people have also pitched. So I'm going to start, and I'm going to ask especially the members of the Economic Development Commission, what does the Economic Development Commission do?
I'll take that one.
There you go.
So it was formed 3 years ago by the Board of Selectmen. It's, we're all volunteers. We're appointed by the Board of Selectmen, and it's a bipartisan group. And our mission statement was to find ways to increase the tax base while maintaining Wilton's rural character, which sounds good, but easier said than done. In the 3 years, we've published a strategic recommendation document on our website, and with the help of Chris Fuentes, we have done a pretty good website, which we view as a resource for people coming to town. So what we've tried to do is throw things up in the air to the selectmen to try to see, okay, what do you think of this? And we recommended that at least a part-time employee be hired to promote economic development. Without that it's really going to be hard to move forward with just volunteers.
Yeah, can I ask you this question? Because I know some of the things that I've read online and some of the things that people have asked me about anytime I've written about the EDC. It's been 3 years since you were started, and your mission was to increase the business tax base. But let's be honest, for the most part, you didn't have a budget, and you were kind of hampered and pinned into making the website, that was really the prime thing that you were told to do. What would you like the Economic Development Commission to be able to do? If you had, unlimited budget or unlimited access and some kind of bite, what would you like the commission to be able to do?
Well, I think it's a timing issue, partially. I think there's some sort of soft things we can do initially to try to get the ball rolling and get started. I think that Wilton Center, for example, suffers from a lack of identity. I think there's a lot of retailers, people in Central Fairfield County just don't know where it is, never heard of it, don't know how to get to it. So I think if we use possibly some social media connections, some promotion along those lines, that's a soft way, of getting started. Then you come to the bigger issue, and the bigger issue is bricks and mortar, zoning, and what it's going to take to get some new development taking place in Wilton. Haven't seen too much in the way of really new development, especially retail, in recent years. And the question is, do what we have now, and at the current rates, meet the market. Those questions need to be answered. Cannondale is certainly an asset to the town of Wilton that needs to be addressed. It's got tremendous development potential and should certainly be on the agenda. The south part of Wilton, people first enter the town, and the southern part, it should look much better than it does. So some remodeling work down there, anything the town programs the town can engage, they will enhance the initial impressions of someone coming to town should be undertaken.
So how does that,
Excuse me, Heather, can you leave these mics on the table louder? You're good, but they're not.
did you hear that back there, I guess?
You gotta get closer to the microphone.
Is that better?
How about, is this one's working? So why don't I do this? I'll pass this around for now until we get the table ones. Here, let's pass this to the end. All right, so we talked about what kind of areas in town could be developed, but what kind of role, besides, now that the website has been created, what kind of role can the EDC take and do? What kind of steps would you like to be able to see that you can do? Whether that's hire a full-time person, because you are a volunteer commission, like all of the boards and commissions are in Wilton. What are the steps that you can take? Or would like to take? What are the dream steps you'd like to take?
Well, I think one thing we could do is be a facilitator. And, you know, no one coming to town comes to us first. I think that they should. Because they go and they see the town planner, and he's got, one, issue, and that's enforcing his regulations. But we would hope to act as facilitator, come to us, say, okay, we'd like to do X, Y, and Z, and we could tell them how to get it done, because that's something we could actually do. Add to the, now it's they go here, they go there. Like I have a story of, I was talking to Bob Root, our building department chief inspector, and we have this school that's moving to Wilton from Westport. And they got approved by P&Z. They went through all the steps to do that, and then they go to him, and he says, "Well, you're taking the whole north end of the building across from the tennis courts, and if you're taking one of the fire exits, and now you've got control of that fire exit, you're not in compliance." So here they are going, I thought I just jumped through every hoop, and here's another hoop. So if we could somehow get a group together that included each of the different departments and P&Z, I think that would be something that would encourage people to come here.
I think one of the things that I've always found really interesting is that the town, with the plan of conservation, has defined itself as a semi-rural village. Do you all think on the panel that we are still a semi-rural village? Dan, why don't you take that one?
Yeah, actually, in one of my other lives, I chair the Conservation Commission, so I guess that somehow makes me qualified to answer this. So, okay. Semi-rural village. I think it depends where you are. There are certainly, absolutely parts of this town where you walk around, you drive around, and you feel like you are absolutely in the middle of nowhere. This time of year in particular, with the leaves changing, you can get lost in some of the back roads, figuratively speaking, and really feel like you are truly out in the country. To echo what was said a few minutes ago, you drive from up Route 7 from where Walmart is into the beginnings of town. No, there's no semi-rural village there. Cannondale, yes. So I think it varies. Speaking personally, it's a character of the town I would very much like to see perpetuated, rather than rampant development in pursuit of an increased tax base. I think we can do that while maintaining character.
Okay, how?
Ann?
Thanks.
No, seriously. Look, I think there are already parts of town that are zoned for commercial development, parts that are zoned for mixed use, parts that are zoned residential, lot sizes. There are things that we have in place for a reason, and I think a lot of that needs to stay put. I think also you can do, if you drive around the commercial areas of town and look at the buildings, they vary tremendously in terms of, do they look like they were built in the 1800s, whether they were or not? Are they more modern? Are they sort of, what looked great at the time, but now we sort of look at as sort of the hideous 70s architecture? I think there's a lot that can be done from a development perspective where the buildings, the way they're placed on the lots, the roads, the driveways, the paths, the sidewalks, the tree plantings continue to look like we live in a country town. And I think if we, going back to something you said earlier about, well, what's our identity? Do we have an identity crisis? Do we know who we are? I think if there is, consensus amongst the people who live here and the people who govern the town that we want to maintain that character, then that should be part of what we encourage for, any new building that goes on or any renovation or any, redesign of a lot, is that it maintains that look and feel. And I think that can be done without compromising the ability to, for a merchant to generate revenue and for the town to generate tax revenue.
I'm going to bring it down to the end of the table with Dominic, because I know you spoke to the EDC last night, 2 nights ago. What kind of retailers would you try and go to say, I've got the perfect, quaint, semi-rural, but great for business kind of town for you?
That's a good question. My focus is national retailers. I represent 20 retailers. Gap happens to be one of them. I know that was a recent closure. It was an underperforming store. They closed 175 stores across the country. But this is strictly retail. That's what I do. I don't do anything else. One of the problems with the Wilton market, retailers love the Wilton customer. They have a lot of disposable income. They're not price sensitive, but they don't like the Wilton market because there is no synergy in retail here. Downtown Wilton Center is pretty much a huge convenience store. It's daily needs. I mean, there are a few beautiful, real strong local retailers such as, Signature Style, Snappy Gator. But for the most part, you drive in, you get what you need, and you're going home. And there's a reason for it. If you look at where Wilton sits relative to the other retail markets, we have Danbury Mall, which is the second strongest mall in New England, has a second highest sales per square foot. Everybody gravitates to Danbury Mall. You have New Canaan, downtown New Canaan, has done a great job over the last 10 years attracting national retailers such as J. Crew, Crew Cuts, Vineyard Vines. And then you have Greenwich Avenue, Main Street, Westport. So there are too many alternatives that surround Wilton that's attracting people out of town. So, and there's nothing for people, nothing in Wilton Center to really get somebody outside of Wilton to shop in Wilton. Suburban markets like Greenwich, Westport, you can't survive with Greenwich cannot survive with just Greenwich customer. They need a bigger trade area. They need a bigger pull to survive. Westport, Main Street, those are among the highest rents in the Northeast. They're paying $120, $130 a square foot. They need to do $1,000 a square foot, which is that's a lot of sales. And you can't just live with the Westport customer. You need Wilton, you need Reading, you need Easton, you need Fairfield. So what Wilton needs to do is, I'm sorry, am I jumping ahead?
No, it's okay. I mean, I still am curious about who would you bring here?
Well, yeah,
I think what you need to do before.
Wilton needs to differentiate itself from all the surrounding towns. It shouldn't be another outdoor mall because they're too close. There are too many other retailers in the surrounding area. But I think the niche that it needs to create it's the affordable, strong retail market for mom and pops, like a Signature Style and several others. And maybe that's the way to rebrand it.
But I want to address that. I, as a successful business owner here, I, as a pretty successful store here in town, have had the problem of surviving a good third of our year, even though we have pretty strong sales. And because of that, we've had to branch out into a corporate sales area. We've had to do promotional things that you wouldn't have to do if my customer who says they want to shop local always shop local. And everyone expects us to support their kids' teams, their school programs, all these things. And I need the same support on the flip side. You can't always be giving out without someone saying, you know what, I'm not going to buy something online. I'm not going to go down to TJ Maxx and buy a pair of earrings. I'm actually going to look in town. And I think, retail's changed so much that even just a mom and pop, great, little store that fills a niche, oftentimes has to have another component to it. I know Megan LeBon has a very strong website as well. So, we're not relying on just our Wilton customers. We can't. We'd be out of business already. So it's not just the big chains, it's also the little guys.
One of the things that I hear from the little guys a lot is the price of rent. you know, it's always sort of been this stereotype that the rents in Wilton are too high for retailers. And then you turn around and you've got Kimco, which has every other store that's empty. I mean, Lee, maybe you can kind of educate us on your side of things about how, you know, I understand you have the reputation for being one of the best kinds of landlords to small businesses and to locally owned businesses. You know, what do you think about?
I'll take that as a compliment. Let me just give you a snapshot of what Wilton Center looks like today from a vacancy standpoint. Right now, and this is Wilton Center, doesn't include anything on Route 7. There's a total of 94,700 square feet of vacant space in Wilton Center, comprised of office and retail. Of that 94,700 feet, there's 30,000 feet of retail in 14 spaces. There's 64,500 feet of office in 24 spaces. So, you know, in this little community, that's an awful lot. You know, the overall market, office market in Fairfield County has been running vacancies that are 21%. And that's been very static over the last 6 quarters. So, you know, the dynamics of the market from an office standpoint just aren't there. And, you know, from a retail standpoint, which is what we're trying to concentrate here on as far as Wilton Center is concerned, you know, every retailer today is suffering from some circumstances that, number one, are related to the internet. Number two, the overhang of the financial crisis and the psychology that's had on the buyer. And number three, the big box retailers. And those 3 factors are playing heavily on the consumer. You add to that the debt situation the state of Connecticut has and the debt situation the federal government has. And these, you know, may be latent things on our minds, but they're there. And when you add all this up, it's got an effect on the consumer, especially in the context of the fact that the consumer makes up 2/3 of the U.S. economy. So the small retailer, you know, has got a tough job. I was reading a annual report from a REIT that specializes in retail, and it said right in the annual report that they wouldn't select a tenant unless that tenant had a substantial internet presence, because they felt as though, as a major landlord, that they needed to have tenants that were drawing customers from the internet as well as from their bricks and mortar stores. So, you know, retailers today have got a whole new challenge in front of them. And, you know, we have to be cognizant of that. I think that Wilton Center has got many tremendous assets. This, as Dominic has said, the national retailers, you know, love the customer here, but I think the rents are coming down, and you know, how far down they're going to come so the local people can afford to open a shop here and maintain it long term is yet to be determined.
Okay. I think probably the best thing to do is let's bring it on to the ideas that we had. That we have 3 people who have prepared presentations for everybody to consider, and especially for you all to think about what's going to work. The first person we're going to call up is Jenny Wong.
I would like to first thank you, the Wilton Economic Development Committee, for hosting this forum and inviting me to speak tonight. I don't know how I get myself into this, but thank you all for coming. My name is Jenny Wong. I am a stay-at-home mom. I have 2 young children, a 3-year-old girl and a 7-month-old boy. Our family came to Wilton about 2 years ago because of the school reputation. Let me introduce my background a little bit. I have background in accounting and finance. I spent a few years working for PricewaterhouseCoopers and L'Oreal. And after getting my MBA degree, I worked as an equity research analyst for a couple of different funds in Manhattan. I am a naturalized citizen, and I'm actually very proud to be a Wilton resident. I hear a lot of different desire within this town, the desire to preserve the town characteristic, but at the same time trying to bring in a little bit more business activity and public amenity. And all of us, I think, in this room think that our tax is too high and we want to see lower taxes. Why am I here? Because I actually believe that there's a way to balance it, and I'm here to share my idea with all of you. But I do think that Wilton needs a vision. This is something that will set us apart from all the different towns in this area. And it will be a roadmap to help us guide what kind of businesses that we really want to attract into town. So what is my vision? My vision of Wilton is a town where our nature meets the future. What do I mean by this? I mean, we all love this open space that Wilton has to offer, but we shouldn't be afraid of embracing the future and sustainable technology. And in my opinion, there are a lot of businesses that share the same vision. What I mean is business that aim to preserve nature and innovate for future generation. Let's take a look at Wilton. We have a great example here in town. It's a company called ASML. Here in this facility, there are hundreds of employees who are dedicated to design, engineer, fabricate machinery with the purpose of making the silicon chip to be faster, smaller, and greener. I mean, this is a company that we can take inspiration and expand. So we can apply this vision into a clean energy sector. And there are so many different corporations and up-and-coming companies that apply in this sector. How about attracting some of these companies to build a state-of-the-art R&D campus? For companies like Tesla, they have very lofty vision to build premium electric vehicle. I believe they already roll out a couple models. And you know, here in Wilton, we are in between so many prestigious universities, running from Princeton all the way up to Boston. We have all these talented graduates. Let's try to keep these people here. We also have this challenging northeast climate and terrain. I mean, yes, people wonder, I mean, all these companies are located in California, but we have something that they don't have. And in my opinion, I mean, companies like Tesla should design and test the product with the Northeast consumer in mind. But, you know, Tesla is not the only company. I mean, there's names like Navistar. They also make electric vehicle with the commercial purposes. Solar City, Green Charge Networks, STEM, I mean, these are companies that are up and coming. They have innovative solutions on how all of us can save our energy costs. Cree LED, Bridge Luck. My point is, there's so many businesses that can fit into this vision, into this clean energy sector. And we can expand this into the other category, green design zone. I believe that this is something that's growing exponentially and is becoming very relevant for all of us. And I would like to see Wilton to be the center of this green design movement. Let's try to work with the state to structure some sort of tax incentive for a mixed-use commercial center here in town and assign it as a green design zone, very similar to what is happening in New York with the Startup New York zone. So who are we going to aim this for? Let's look for companies and professionals who aspire to build sustainable and energy-efficient home and furnishing. And we can work it out so they have some eligibility criteria, such as industry certification. There's already a couple standard out there, and they have to create net positive jobs. They have to meet minimum investment requirement each year. And the interesting thing is we can require some of this investment to be earmarked and to go back for public facility here in town, you name it, ice skating ring, park, golf club. So, you know, the point is they enjoy some sort of tax benefit, but they also give back to the town. How do we draw traffic into this commercial mixed-use area? I mean, obviously, we need traffic, not just from Wilton and neighboring town, but from, you know, other town as well. But my point is that we still need major brand as anchor tenant. Crate and Barrel and Pottery Barn, they already have dedicated line specific for eco-friendly furniture. How about promoting this center by producing an HGTV show about Wilton residents going over green design renovation? I mean, the media exposure is a win-win for all of us. This media coverage can lead to higher property value.